The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. At that time, Jesus walked by the Sea of Galilee, went up on the mountain and sat down there. Great crowds came to him, having with them the lame, the blind, the deformed, and mute, and many others. They placed them at his feet, and he cured them. The crowds were amazed when they saw the mute speaking, the deformed made whole, the lame walking, and the blind able to see, and they glorified the God of Israel. Jesus summoned his disciples and said, "My heart is moved with pity for the crowd, for they have been with me now for 3 days and have nothing to eat. I do not want to send them away hungry, for fear that they may collapse on the way." The disciples said to him, "Where could we ever get enough food in this deserted place to satisfy such a crowd?" Jesus said to them, "How many loaves do you have?" 7, they replied, "and a few fish." He ordered the crowd to sit down on the ground. Then he took the 7 loaves and the fish, gave thanks, broke the loaves, and gave them to the disciples, who in turn gave them to the crowds. They all ate and were satisfied. They picked up the fragments left over, 7 baskets full. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to the Lord Jesus Christ.
I don't know where the deacon is. He must have got lost on the way. There are 150 psalms in the Bible. 150. But the most popular psalm is the psalm that you heard this morning, Psalm 23. And I would suggest, of all the funeral services that I've conducted, that 95% of them had that psalm. Why is it so popular? Because it's so comforting and consoling. The Lord is my shepherd, there is nothing I shall want. Nothing. The image of the shepherd is the most popular image of Jesus. In the catacombs in Rome, the early Christians, the graffiti on the walls, which you still can see to this day, are about shepherds. Jesus carrying the lamb. And my own favorite one is the one where he has the lamb around his shoulders, which points out the bond that existed between a shepherd and his sheep. It was Job 7:24, stayed with the sheep. He called them by name. They followed him. He led them to greener pastures and to fresh water. Such was the bond that existed between him and his sheep. And now that image is transferred to Jesus to point out the same kind of bond that exists between him and his sheep, meaning all of us. Even though I walk in a valley of darkness, I fear no evil. Why? Because you are with me, and your rod and your staff give me courage. And the final line, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever and ever. Not for 24 hours, not for a long weekend, but forever and ever. When all is said and done, isn't that what we want for all our families? When all is said and done, is that what we want for all our friends? And when all is said and done, isn't that what we want for ourselves? To live in the house of the Lord forever and ever. And unlike our politicians, who make these wonderful promises, and we believe them, we're so gullible. Whether it's in New Jersey, where I spent 40 years, or Tallahassee, or Washington, they never fulfill their promises. But the Lord, he fulfills his promises. And so we can put absolute faith and trust in him. And just one comment on the gospel. I think it was Perry Como who used to have a song years ago, Little things mean a lot. Is that right? Was it Perry Como? Oh, come on now. I'm 82 years old. Yes, I think it was Perry Como. Check it out and Google it. But today's gospel points out that little things do mean a lot. In another gospel, I think it was Luke, that it was a young kid's lunch that Jesus picked up and performed this miracle whereby he fed the 5,000 people with a boy's lunch. So little things do mean a lot. And we know from our own life experience too that little things do mean a lot. A word of comfort, of consolation, of affirmation, of sympathy, all of these things mean a lot to people when they lose their loved ones. So today, let us remember that. Let's do something small today for somebody.